Hello everybody, this is Amanda with Blue Highway Games for Friday Features, and today we're going to be talking about Dexterity games, which are some of my favorite genre of games because they're like party games in a box. Oftentimes you can do them with two people and they're still fun and enjoyable to do on your own. So I have chosen it. Oh, hello! We have some people actually watching us live today. That's very exciting. Welcome to Slug Biker for joining us and any other viewers that are tuning in. If you have any questions, do ask them. I will try to keep an eye on the chat stream. However, I'm going to be spending a little more time in front of the live full-on camera over there so you can all watch my wonderful balancing and dexterity skills as I show off some of these games. But I'll try to do a good job of keeping an eye over there. But to start us off, instead of going in my normal order, I appear to be frozen for some people. I hope that's not everyone. Well, we'll see. It says everything's still streaming on my end. I'm going to start us off. I'm not going to do the normal order of things. So I usually start with the kids game and work my way up, but just because how some things are set up, I'm going to do them in a little bit different order. And the first one I'm going to talk about is metal, because I tried to do this one on the big camera and you can't really see what I'm doing because the pieces are so tiny. So metal is my first dexterity game. It is a little box from Jordan Draper Games, and it is a box full of tiny little metal components. Now these metal components are pegs, and they're going to be little geodesic balls and a king piece that might look familiar to players of Cube, because these pieces are from large lawn games shrunk down to, like, I don't know, 1/1000th of their size. I'm not good at estimation or math. As you can see, some of the ones that have the numbers on them. So the box is full of these little components, and you're going to set them up on your tabletop or outside on your driveway if you want. But they work in tiny little flat areas, and you can play all your favorite lawn games like croquet on your tabletop. And you can use the pieces in multiple different ways. There's, I think, 6 games that they mention, and I believe you have to go onto their website to get the rules. None of our boxes had them in them, but the rules were on their website. You can even watch videos on how to play if you don't already know what to do with these components. But one of my favorites was, in fact, bocce, because it comes with that little tiny bocce ball. Hold on, I can't even get out of the box. It's so tiny. So this is not for small children because they would quickly inhale this. In fact, I could inhale this and probably not even notice. So you would drop, if you've never played bocce, this goes thrown out or rolled out on your table, and then you and your team have 2 matching colored balls that you are then going to try to roll one at a time to get as close as you can to the target. And another team would come along and they'd roll their color, and so on and so forth. And whichever team or person can get the closest to the target or touching it will get some points. And then that person is able to then roll it to a different part of the table or the floor or your driveway. And then you are trying to do the same with your teeny tiny little ball. The one game, I forget the name of it. It's a version of Cube, but you set these posts up and they have numbers, and then you're going to try to roll these into the area that has all these little 1 to 12 tiny little targets, and you're trying to roll them over in order. So whichever, you have to knock down 1 before 2 before 3, and if you do, you get to take those and add it to your stash of points. You can also play big coop with the posts that you're actually chucking at the other posts while trying not to knock the king over in the center of your table. So this is metal. Again, it didn't really work to show because it was just, everything is so tiny that you can't really see from a long distance away. And that is normally, 'cause it's a big box of metal, $34.95, but it'll be 20% off until next Thursday. All right. We're going to try to slide over here to this other camera, and I'll try to make sure you can see everything. Oh, before I do, There's a lot to talk about with this one. So Mega City Oceania is the biggest dexterity game that I have because it's almost like a strategy game with a dexterity component. But you are trying to build buildings using these plastic components from this bag, and you are going to attempt to stack them into formations to get them to match objective cards that you have that have different requirements on them. So this one means that you would need a purple colored base. You have to, oh, that's a tricky one. You have to cover up each of the vents, which are those little white circles, while leaving the colored vent open. So actually they're not vents, they're electrical conduits and sewage outlets for your building that you're building. You have to hook up your building so it's connected to the city, but you can't cover up the vent, which is that circle. So this is a really hard one. And you need to do so with 6 pieces. And it has to be at least 40 feet. Oh, 40 feet, it's not very much. 40 meters. Represented by this little tiny millimeter stick. It has to be that tall. So it has to stand that tall on your platform. And on your turn, you're going to be taking more of these cards so you know what you're working towards. You might take more platforms. You might take more building materials drawn randomly from the bag. And then you're trying to craft things onto these hexes. When it's your turn and you think you have a completed building, then you're going to try to take your building and slide it into the center to attach it to the larger city so that it can be a part of the mega city. And you have your own little colored cubes that you're going to be putting on there. So you can identify which are your buildings. You get points when you bring it into the center if it's the tallest building currently in the mega city, if it's made out of all one type of material, glass, steel, or concrete. Obviously, they're all still plastic pieces, but having a uniformity in that, as well as building next to the center park, which is Central Park, you'll be able to have the opportunity with a purple building to create monuments, works of art, because your city has to have parks with art or no one's going to want to live in this mega city. All right, so those are all the little pieces. Let me slide on over to the center for a very small demonstration. All right, hopefully you can all see me. This is my little tiny structure that I have built very carefully that hopefully did not fall over, which is very exciting. It had to be 50 meters or 50 millimeters tall, made out of 8 pieces, and it has to have nothing overhanging, which it does not. So I would have to keep going and do something else on my turn. But let's pretend that nothing was overhanging. Dang it. I thought I had it, but it must have shifted. I think that's still tall enough. Yeah, sure. Then there would be a center park, center area, other buildings, and you actually have to slide it from your place at the table to the center without anything falling off. So don't do what I did. I prefaced this whole thing with saying Amanda isn't very good at balancing, but I still like the genre. So yes, that is Mega City Oceania. It is a dexterity strategy game. It's for 2 to 4 players. It takes probably about an hour to play. And when you're done, I wish I had it all set up for you to see. And there's all these different cities of different weird shapes and formations and park sculptures. It's very satisfying out on your table. And as my friends and people watching know, I like to buy things based on components. But this did not disappoint. I knew it was going to be a fun, cool, shape-shifting, stacking game. And it was. So that is Mega City Oceania. It normally runs at $54.99, but it will be 20% off this week. Alright, so we're going to rewind back to do some family games, and I'm going to play Rhino Hero, which is a classic children's game for balancing and stacking that is just as much fun for all ages. I love this game. If you've not heard of it, you should just pick it up, whether or not you have children. I don't. And it starts out, you have to have a base, and then you are going to have some roof cards in your hand. You're trying to get rid of your roof cards. And there's some wall pieces that you will be using to build your roof. So you would see what is on the bottom of that card, 2 little L's, or the really hard one starts out with just 1 single V, but we're gonna be starting with the easy version because I'm playing 90 easy balancing. And then you have to place one of your roofs. Now, this is a rhino roof card. I don't know if you can see that from that far camera, but there is a rhino symbol on the bottom. That means when I place this roof, the next player is going to have to also move the rhino hero up the tower. So if he's here, then they're going to have to come along and place him on that card along with their little walls and their next roof. There are some other action cards, some that allow you to play 2 roofs at the same time, some that make the other next player have to draw an extra card, some that make the next player have to skip their turn. So some Uno elements into these rooftop cards. But you continue placing your buildings and your walls and your roofs, and that card has a rhino on it, so I'm gonna have to place it up. I am shocked that we are this high without it falling over. I was sure I would not be able to get up to the second rhino before I embarrassed myself on a live stream. But there you have it. So I'm going to play this double card and I'm going to put this next one on there. We're getting really tricky now. So I'm going to put only one thing as I continue to climb with my next rhino card. And I'm left-handed, folks. I'm going to move it up. I don't think I've ever gotten my Rhino Hero Tower that tall before it falls over. So, again, it's Rhino Hero. It's absolutely delightful. It's not, I think they say ages 5+. You want to be too tiny, but the cards themselves are super durable, so they're actually pretty easy to balance, even if you're me. Clearly, as I built this whole tower for you to look at. And it is super affordable. It's normally $14.99, but it will be 20% off this week till next Thursday. Alrighty. The next one I have is Misleading Box, because this is the 2-player version of Tokyo Highway. This is my personal copy. They only have a 4-player version now, which is a much bigger box that I just didn't open or bring home from the store. So it is a bigger version, but it plays the same, except you can play with 2, 3, or 4 players. This version I can only play with 2. And it comes with a bunch of popsicle stick highway roads. Oh yeah, Slug Biker says that looks fun for all ages. Yes, Rhino Hero is fun for all ages. Actually, all these games are probably fun for all ages. I mean, Mega City might be boring for younger children because there's not a lot going on each game. It's not as exciting as a 15-minute game of Rhino Hero. Alright, Tokyo Highway. You have popsicle stick highway roads, you have columns that are going to be the support for your highway, and then you have cars that are super tiny that you can't really see them. Maybe with the tweezers I can show you. Oh, that would have been great, but it wasn't. Tweezers with a little road car, and you'll be able to place those onto your road tracks. So the game starts with everybody having a ramp onto the freeway, and it's going to be placed approximately 1 popsicle stick away from the other one, and the other player's colored cards. And now the object of the game is you have to place out columns and a road on your turn. You have to go up or down 1 level column. So now that it's 1, I can't just put out 1 column and then place another road on it. I have to, you can see that, but I have to place I have to place 1 up. Now that I've gone up 1, I have the choice on my next turn to go back down to a single column or go up to 3. So you're never going up really, really steep or really steep drops. But what you're trying to do is position your roadway so that you can go over top of your opponent's roadway, but doing so in such a way that you do not just open yourself up for them to do the same right back to you. So it's dexterity in that you're balancing the popsicle sticks on these columns, and you don't want to knock them down. There is a little penalty for having that happen, but there's a certain spatial strategy element that's happening here that's a little bit different from other dexterity games, because you're trying to figure out the patterns that you would want to lay down and position your roads so that you're not just opening yourself up to be crossed over or under. Because when my roadway crosses my opponent's roadway, I can go ahead and place a car onto that specific piece of road. When I've gotten rid of all of my cars, I will win the game. You are allowed to have a few helps in the form of these yellow columns. These allow you to cheat a little bit. You can play a yellow column on the same level as another one of your most recently played piece, or you can actually start to go up higher or lower in a bigger drops. But you have to be careful because they have to balance, so they will fall off if it's too steep. But it allows you to make sudden moves up or down around your opponents. You each have 3 of these. I think you have 15 popsicle sticks and 30 columns and 10 cars and some tweezers to help you place those cars if you need. But anytime you go over or under your opponent's roadway, you get to place one of those roads. And if you can do multiples at the same time, you would get to place multiple cars at the same time. I do better with the balancing on this because it's not overly tricky, but the spatial strategy is a whole other element that's really neat. And with the bigger box version, you and your whole family can play it. When you're done, it kind of sprawls out around your table, and it's, again, I love seeing things out on a table that just are very spatial. It's just very satisfying. The opposite of things on my teeny tiny computer screen. So that is Tokyo Highway. The larger 4-person version, not pictured here, is $54.95, and it'll be 20% off this week. Alright, so that's Tokyo Highway, Rhino here on Metal, and Oceania, Mega City Oceania. The last one I have to show you is the new game that I picked for this week, and it is called A Game of Cat and Mouse. And it's from the same people who brought you Exploding Kittens. And it is a large tabletop. Oh, somebody asked if the 2-player version is still available. It is not. In the US, Asmodee picked up the license to Tokyo Highway, and they decided to release it in the bigger box version. It might be still available from Itten in Japan. It's a Japanese company originally, so you'd have to check online. But as far as I know, Asmodee only released the larger single, because you can play with 2, 3, or 4 players, and you get a ton of columns and things like that. Alright, well, this is A Game of Cat and Mouse. I can't hold up the box because the box itself is used to construct the game, and you're going to have kind of this lovely center plastic piece. There's some sides you get to add to the board, and then there's these cat paws, which are magnetically attached quite solidly to the player board, which I guess I wish I could see. It's very colorful and bright. There is a nose that goes into the cat. There are 3 white teeth balls that go into the cat's mouth. And then every player, the 2 players, start with 4 of the main action little yellow balls. And then on your turn, you don't take a turn. You simultaneously try to flick these little yellow balls at the center cat, trying to get them through the center mouth of the cat. Let's see, I will not be able to do this on camera. There's no way. Played this with my husband last night, and he beat me repeatedly. He even got the nose out. If you can get all the yellow balls off of your side onto your opponent's side, you win a point. If you can knock all 3 the teeth off, but once the teeth are knocked off, you can actually fling those as well. If you can get all... Oh, when you drop a ball on the ground, you yell pause, like P-A-W-S, pun with P-A-U-S-E, pause. And then you go pick up that ball and you add it back to your game and you keep going. So the object is to get all of the yellow balls onto your opponent's side, or all of the white teeth onto the opponent's side, or to knock the center cat's nose out, which we only managed to do 1 time. It has these lovely little scoring eyeballs that allow you to adjust yours and the enemy's points. And you can keep track and play tournament after tournament. We stopped after 1 tournament game where I lost. I don't think I had any points. But it was a lot of fun, and it's actually quite this mechanic of this magnetic paw. It rotates. You can adjust. Ah, I got one through. That's so very exciting. All right, so that is a game of cat and mouse. It's the new game out from the same people who did Exploding Kittens. It is a dexterity game. I'm gonna move back on over here for the wrap up, and it is normally $34.95, so it's a pretty good deal. And when you're done, you actually just pick everything up, fold it over, and it folds right back down into a box smaller than this. It's very compact, which is nice. Because my other really fun game, Clask, I love that game. I don't know if you know it, but the box is like this big. You just have to have a house where you can leave that out, which I do not, because I live in a teeny tiny apartment. So this was much better because I could just stick it on my normal game shelf and you wouldn't even know it folds out to this wonderful dexterity game. All right, so looking back through questions, yes, you can play the 4-person game with just 2 players for Tokyo Highway, which is I think why they did that, just so it's a much more flexible option. You just play with less roads, I think, and I mean there'll be extra columns and things in the box for you, or the game you could make it go on for a very long time maybe, and use 2 colors per person. I don't know. All right, unless we have any other questions, that is it for the dexterity games. Thank you for joining me. I hope that you have a wonderful weekend. It's currently pouring rain. Maybe that will go away so you can get outside. If not, play some games, do some of these activity games, play metal, you can play croquet, even though it's pouring outside. All right, thank you very much and have a wonderful weekend.